WMNF, speaking truth to power since 1979.
Riding with my top down, listening to this Jesus.
Hello, this is DJ Doug Vader. Have you heard? The Righteous Temple of Hip Hop show is changing its name to The Plug Radio. With the same great mission, with the same great team, right here on WMNF 88.5 FM. Stay plugged in.
Riding with my top down, listening to this Jesus.
Thank you for joining us here on WMNF Radio 88.5 FM. This is the public affairs program called Community Speaks, and I'm your host, Patro Mobili. Here we are, mid-month, December, as people of the world are observing their culturally sensitive holidays, and guns and hate are in the news again. Students gathered for an exam were attacked in Providence, Rhode Island, and overseas. In Australia, a family affair. A father and a son attacked Jewish people on the first day of Hanukkah. The mass shooting in Australia was the first in 30 years, while here in the United States, it has become all too common. In Florida, lawmakers are introducing a reactionary legislation to add even more guns into a volatile situation, guns on campus. And we can have a discussion about guns, open carry, and racist violence. So call in for that. And also in Florida, new investigations into the governor's office, the corruption in the governor's office regarding funds intended for children and families that was diverted to fight against these ballot amendments that the governor hated. And is that a good use of funds, a correct use of funds? We could debate that as well. But also, black farmers are rejecting the money from tariff-funded farm aid, calling the program structurally racist. Meanwhile, number 47, the president ranks 47th as the worst president in the history of the United States. This is Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patrick Mobili, and I, of course, want to hear from you. This is my opportunity to talk to you as we spiraling towards the end of the year. We're not going to have too much more time this year to talk, so let's bring it all together. We can talk about what you've heard over the course of this year and where we're going to go forward in the future. So give us a call, 813-239-9663. Sage stands ready to take your telephone calls, but you can also write me, DJ at WMNF.org here on this Monday as we talk about what is happening and put it all into perspective and what we're going to do about it. So this is Community Speaks, your opportunity to talk. There's so many issues that we need to put into perspective because there's, corruption for one thing, but these guns is another thing that we have to talk about. In this legislation that is being promulgated in the Florida legislature is happening. It's I call it reactionary because we always get these kinds of reactions when a shooting happens, but we don't talk about what we need to do to make life safer, not more volatile, more guns in the situation. And that's what these bills that have been filed in the Florida House and the Senate would actually do. It would loosen the ban on the open carry of firearms on campus, allowing even more guns. So that's the fix that Florida's rulers are looking at. Here's a summary of House Bill 757, which is titled School Safety, and that has just been filed for consideration in the 2026 legislative session that begins in January. And the summary of this House bill says it authorizes public post-secondary institutions to participate in school guardian program, authorizes certain college or university employees, faculty members, and students to openly carry handguns or carry concealed weapons or concealed firearms into college or university facility. It goes on from there, and there's a link that has been provided. Maybe we'll put the full text of this legislation proposal on the website. But the school guardian, this notice refers to the school guardian program that the governor wants to expand to college campuses. Governor DeSantis is pushing to expand Florida's campus, quote, guardian program, permitting trained kindergarten through 12th grade school employees to carry guns as a new security measure at colleges and universities. The governor is recommending the state spend $6 million on the idea next year to potentially widen one of the more controversial school safety policies passed in the wake of the 2018 Parkland High School shooting. In addition to bolstering security at colleges with more armed guards, DeSantis is seeking millions to install new door locks at the universities to address potentially vulnerabilities that are exposed by the shooting at the Florida State University earlier this year. So more guns, but better locks. And so I'm sure everyone feels so much safer about that. No mention whatsoever restricting the ownership or the use of assault rifles, of course. But in fact, the governor supports efforts to actually lower the age from 21 to 18 for someone to purchase a rifle in Florida at a time when the brain is still baking. You're still looking to be more mature, yet you want to lower the age for the carrying of assault rifles in this state. What kind of future do they really, are they really looking for in this type of legislation? So the age restriction was put in place after the 2018 massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, where 14 students and 3 staff members were murdered and 17 others were injured. After the shooting, that was a lot of reaction to that shooting that happened. Rainbow, they said a natural rainbow appeared over the school at that time, was adopted as a symbol for other mass shooting memorials. At that time, that was supposed to be a unifying thing. A rainbow became a central feature of the memorial in Orlando, near the Pulse nightclub shooting, where 2 years before the Parkland shooting, 49 people were murdered. A crosswalk was painted in the colors of the rainbow. But of course, we saw over the course of this year, the governor sent transportation department workers to Orlando earlier this year to remove it, just as he did at many locations across the state, saying that they didn't like that political messaging, this message of inclusiveness. But in the meantime, this message of exclusion and arming more people, more reactionary legislation is what we do see coming out of the legislature and out of Tallahassee. So there's been a lot of reporting so far in 2025. There have been at least 391 mass shootings and 13,000, over almost 14,000 shooting deaths in the United States. That's according to Gun Violence Archives. And I do want to thank J.C. Bruce for sending me a lot of this press over the week. It's instructive to see what is happening in Tallahassee and as these bills are coming through. And we could talk about all of that is happening. In the meantime, what we are also seeing in Tallahassee is a corruption campaign. This governor is being dogged by corruption allegations over this money that was used. There's $83 million was a crony deal, and $10 million from a charity scandal, and that $300 million for the detention center. There's a lot of corruption scandal of wasteful spending that has been charged coming out of Tallahassee. We could talk more about all of those, but the governor over the course, especially around October, was trying to use the Department of Government Efficiency, this made-up department that was made up at the federal level, was copied at the state level, and they tried to use that list to distract from all of this cronyism, the money that just mentioned 83 million, the 10 million, and the 300 million for the detention center. All of that, you tried to use Doge to cover up or distract from that. It didn't work. Now there's new investigations being carried out, and so this governor is being forced to answer for all of that, but especially when it comes to the money that was diverted from children and families to pay for ads to distract Floridans or to campaign against two amendments, one having to do with the legalization or the decriminalization of marijuana, and the other one having to do with expanding access to abortions in this state and fight against the 6-week cutoff that people were facing. Both those amendments had majority support, but of course, the trick in Florida is you have to get 60%, not just a simple majority, in order to win an amendment. And this governor fought and campaigned so hard using these corrupt funds to fight against, to find ads to fight against these two ballot initiatives, which was total misuse and inappropriate for a governor to do. Constantly trying to put his finger on the scale in terms of what the will of the people are. So I also want to thank Equality Florida for a lot of the information that we have regarding these funds. It's undeniable. $75,000 from prize sponsorship generates millions in economic activity, according to Equality Florida. And St. Pete Pride alone bought $67 million to the local economy and $60 million between 2022 and 2023. And so this money is being dried up as the governor has started to fight against all of these, calling it waste, using Doge as the excuse. But $83 million in the crony land deal, the taxpayer money handed to a donor for 4 acres of land at 10 times its original purchase price. A crony deal, crony land. And then there was a $10 million, the whole Florida scandal, the Medicaid settlement funds routed through the governor's wife's office, Hope Florida Foundation, now under criminal investigation for laundering money into PACs, political action committees backing the governor. So they misused, misappropriated, rerouted millions of dollars of funds, $300 million in the Everglades detention camp, of course. We know what they've nicknamed that. This is a secretive facility to bypass environmental review, drain taxpayer dollars, collapsed after the lawsuits and left 1,200 immigrants missing and unaccounted for. There was a voucher programs that defunded public schools, billions shifted out of classrooms and into politically connected private operators, and millions of crisis pregnancy centers, state-funded organizations that misled and manipulated women, tax holidays for assault rifles, a reckless subsidy that encourages the sale of weapons of war. So I thank Equality Florida for bringing those numbers in stark detail to us. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. We're talking about the new legislation on guns and, of course, the corruption scandals and misuse of funds coming out of Tallahassee right now, implicating the governor and his wife. We could talk about all of those things, but also there's some other issues that we're going to continue to bring up as we're talking about these mass shootings. 813-239-9663. It's 20 minutes into the program. This is Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patrick Wabila, and I do want to go straight away to the telephone lines and see what you have to add in this conversation. But you can also write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. I could read your comments on the air, or you can call us and say what you need to say yourself. One person has already written, if people just paid attention in school, especially in chemistry, then they would not need guns and would know how to make explosives. They work a lot better at mass killings. So I think this was an attempt at satire. Thank you for that. So I guess the question becomes, what all there are all kinds of ways to create chaos. And so I tell you, there are people in the world right now, especially as we saw what happened in Australia, that would stop at nothing to make their racist point. And so, bombs were used in the past during the civil rights movement. Anytime there's change, there's almost no limit to what those who are destined to create chaos will do. 813-239-9663. I'm your host, Patrick Reedy for Community Speaks. I'm going to the telephone lines to talk to Norm in Tampa. Thank you for calling, Norm. You say what?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Checking your credentials this morning, and so let me make a little commentary here about, what's happening and, around the world and stuff. And my point is specifically it talks about the situation where the tanker, the tanker was pirated by the United States government. The property was illegally seized, and the oil apparently is on its way to some quirk on its way to the United States to do what? To be refined? I mean, if that ain't high piracy, I don't know what is.
Right.
You're talking about, it's like, if you think about it, if you were to go into one of the malls or, into one of the 7-Eleven shops, really, and just grab something, and just take something, and not just grab it, just take it and walk out the door, all right? And claim it as yours, and then sell it as yours or whatever. You would expect some sort of just enforcement, at least someone to say something. And how this government gets away abusing the American military to conduct piracy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the same time, tell other nations, try to dictate other nations to moral behavior and those sort of things. And there's nothing in writing here. Nothing that's no declaration of war. It's just that we'll do what we want to do. We're the United States. We're going to re-implement the Monroe Doctrine, and you're using the very same people that you turn around and call them DEI and substandard and to enforce your misdeeds. I'm sure that they're not going to get any of the money from that is, or any of the proceeds from the oil that is illegally seized and that sort of thing. And there's got to be, we're going to pay a hell of a price for this. I mean, this is, to me, that's, I don't care what it is, that's war, that's criminality, and that's the nature of this particular, the government, and at least someone. I mean, I'm speaking out. I just say that, this is just that's not unacceptable. It's just it's the foundation behind causes it generates a slippery slope in the fact that we could start World War here. I mean, the ramifications are just horrible to what's happening. And I think that's something that's and to just kind of like blow it off. Come on.
Well, you can't do that because the effects are there. I mean, this is what people were already saying. The administration was really after the oil, and it wasn't about just the fact that they were violating human rights by shooting boats out of the water and then showing no proof that they were enemy combatants, quote unquote. There was even any drugs on the boat, but yet, they wanted the oil anyways from the beginning.
So if you do that in Venezuela, can you do that in Nigeria? Can you do that
physically? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you believe it physically can, but these countries are, for us, and then to use the very same people who you look down upon, okay? And let's go back to again, the erasing of history. If it wasn't for the 10% army that the United States had for the Civil War, the North had, there would be no United States. The South had clearly had the advantage and was whooping their behinds and stuff. And it was that Lincoln gave great credit to those 10% black soldiers that they put together and fought. And then I think about all of the Tuskegee. Let's go to the Tuskegee Airmen. That here was a unit that came together and escorted bombers, and didn't lose not one bomber, is what the history tells me. And so there's many of young white men, that one white kid that went home to their family and were able to come back and raise their families and stuff and survive because of the work of those black folk who, when they came home in uniform, were called the N-word and were discriminated against and stuff, and that led the fact that they escorted those bombers led to the destruction of the German oil fields in Romania and places like that, and destroy and helped to destroy the Nazi industrial complex, which then slowed the German machine down to allow at least the Soviets and the Allied Army to defeat the Nazis. And you're going to tell me you're going to erase that history? And you're going to tell me, we ran to the fight. Ran to the fight. And think about all the Native Americans who, if it wasn't for their code talking, their top secret, their language that used in the war in the Pacific, and even in the Atlantic and stuff, that allowed that their codes, their secret messages for the United States communication was not intercepted or deciphered at all because of these small band of folks who were native to this country, used their language it would have not allowed the defeat had the advantage to defeat Japan and the Nazi army. And you're going to tell me you're going to erase that history? What? And this man didn't pay not one dime. Okay, not served one day in the service. And also talk about the women. And all of a sudden, you're going to tell women can't fight in the battle? I mean, come on. And it were women. We don't talk about this. Down at Will Run Airport, up there in Detroit, where they built those B-24 bombers. After they were built, how did they get them to the battlefield? They used women, pilots, to fly those bombers all the way to England or all the way to Canada and those sort of things. Yeah. Some of those women had more hours than the pilots, the people that pilot them and stuff. And here's the other thing: despite all of that, when the war was over, did those women get jobs as pilots or air commanders with the private companies and stuff? No, that didn't happen until the 1970s. And did these airlines, private companies, hire the black Tuskegee Airmen, people who had served in that service? Not at all. Stuff. They made this sacrifice. You had Eastern Airlines and Delta Airlines and all these Pan American Airlines and stuff. Not one black pilot or female pilot was even hired by these companies. And so when we made changes and said that women, that these people were going and what they called quote diversity or affirmative action to remove the unfairness of the system. Then you got this clown coming around talking about DEI. Right. And in fact, you hired the people were being hired that weren't as good as these women, and These men, and let me get one more in here. You got me started. You got me preaching this morning. Let me finish the sermon here. And on top of that, women, it was not until 1976 when I started my first year of dental school. The first day I started at dental school in Michigan was the first day they admitted women, okay, into the military academy, the Coast Guard Academy, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, West Point, and those sort of things. And all the time, but meantime, I mean, women, like I said, they served like hell in for this country, and also, the Russians and the Soviets had women pilots. Not the Japanese, but the Mao Zedong and them boys, they had women fighting on the ground. The Vietnamese had women serving in both their army and their Air Force, and that was really forced to change, putting women into these academies, because when Pat Schroeder and Shirley Chisholm said, wait a minute, what's going on here with this? We up down here in the Congress, you want to have you don't even have women bathrooms. You got to go all the way over there and stuff. We're going to make some changes here, and then you want to turn around and change things. Please give me, come on. I got, and then turn around and talk about DEI.
I know
you got EI entitlement and privilege for people who weren't competent and not qualified as those women and black folk that were being that had sacrificed and saved this country from oblivion.
All right.
So I mean, come on, man, you got me preaching.
I know, right? It's a lot to be responding to. Let me get somebody else on, Norm. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your calling. I mean, we got to give somebody else an opportunity. 813-239-9663. But of course, you made great points there. I mean, you said that the person that was depended upon to carry out those strikes in Venezuela, off the coast of Venezuela, was Admiral Alvin Halsey. Of course, he was overseeing the U.S. forces, but he was pushing back on Pete Hegseth, and of course, Pete Hegseth can't stand criticism or pushback. So Pete asked Mr. Alvin Halsey to step down, and so he finally did. He has stepped down because he no longer wants to be a part of this madness, shooting boats out of the water like that. So we do thank Alvin Halsey for his leadership and for his pushback and for ultimately stepping down from overseeing those boat strikes. So thank you, Norm, for recognizing that exactly the very people you depend on, who you say is not fit because there's too much diversity, is being used to carry out these programs until they push back, and then you ask them to step down. Of course, you've been asking the black generals to step down right from the beginning of this administration. 813-239-9663, covering a lot of things, including the shootings, also not only here in the United States, but the one that happened in Australia over the weekend, and also, of course, the corruption right here in Florida. We're going to go to the telephone lines and see what Jerry has to add to this conversation. Thank you for calling Community Speaks, Jerry.
Thank you, sir, for having the show. So I want to make a couple points, and then I'd like to take my comments off air and have you respond to them. So number one is the second strike scenario. I thought it was the first thing that came to my head was a war crime, but we're not technically at war, which is what I understand. So it's not a war crime, but it can be just plain old murder. So it's just like not so much better, but just plain old murder because we're not technically at war. And then the second point is, from my understanding from the news today, is that some Muslim kid stepped in on the Australian shooting. Some Muslim kid stepped in on the Muslim shooting, on the Australian shooting, and stopped the gunman. A Muslim kid, an immigrant, a Muslim.
Right.
So I'd
Which
like
is
to
great.
comment from that. Okay, I'll take him off air.
Well, I mean, I think that's great. If he stepped in and did the right thing, because, violence is violence. And at the time that it's being carried out, who cares what your justifications are. You have no right to just kill people. You have no right. You didn't bring people into this world, and you have no right to take them out of the world. And who gives what makes you think you can start? So if you see something happen, not only say something, but step in if you can. And I did hear that. I wasn't sure who it was, but there was someone who did go up and grab the gun from one of the gunmen, his father, son. It's just a family affair, a father and son standing there shooting at people just to make a statement. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. I want to go back to Tampa and see what Eduardo has to add to this unnerving story about shooting in Australia. Go ahead, Eduardo. You said what?
Yeah, great to talk to you again. It was good news to see that Muslim took down the son, because there was a father and son duel over there. Because that kills the stereotype that we need to get, some people will say, we need to get rid of all Muslims. Although I noticed here in the news that now they're going to be in, guarding their guard, because there's this thing where there's going to be anti-Semitism, and now they're canceling events. How do you see that in the future, going into the new year, given these past weekend events? You see that getting, especially with the Israel-Gaza thing? I haven't heard too much news about that. Is that kind of like done with? I don't know if that's the right word to use.
No, I don't think it's done, but there's a lot to do. I mean, there's a reconstruction going on, but I think there's this idea between, Netanyahu, the prime minister there, and this president to turn it into a tourist trap. But of course, the people of Palestine have a say as well.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff, I think it's more social media and mental illness, but some of it could be because of what's happening with Israel and Gaza. There'll be repercussions of a war like that. They'll say, well, we just got to take matters into our own hands and, do something like we did over there in Australia. But it could happen anywhere.
It could. And I just hope that Netanyahu doesn't try to exploit the situation for its own ends. That area needs to come to an end, because if it doesn't, then I'm afraid we're going to see more of what we've seen over the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll kind of exploit that, yeah.
They will.
There'll be people out there.
Some will.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Eduardo.
Yeah,
thank you.
Have a good
Always
week.
good to hear from you. And talking about the future, I mean, there's some people, there's always chatter out there. There's always listening out for chatter. Apparently, federal authorities announced the arrest of 4 alleged members of an extremist group that were suspected of planning bombing attacks in Southern California. And so they've arrested them, saying that, according to the criminal complaint they filed over the weekend, that suspects were preparing to test improvised explosive devices for planned bombings. And they are members of an offshoot of a Palestinian group called the Turtle Island Liberation Front. So we got to look further into that. I just hope that's not more propaganda. But, there's always this concern during this holiday time about increased violence, especially to make a statement, terrorist violence. So, we got to be on the lookout for that. And of course, there's the shooting that happened in Australia is one thing, to make a statement, but the one that happened here in the United States, the fact, it just reminds us of how often these mass shootings happen. And given what kind of reaction you get, you see what's happening in the state of Florida, where the legislation that is being bandied about is to add more guns to the situation. And so we'll have to have a state meeting about that, because, one has to wonder what the thinking is, how intelligent that thinking is. But so many things on the table. Black farmers, as we mentioned earlier, were rejecting this $12 billion federal farm aid program due to its racist overtones in the light of the circumstances and events that have happened over the last several years, culminating in denying African American farmers and the sons and daughters of African American farmers the same rights and privileges that now the administration says it is going to make sure is guaranteed to farmers in general. This is one of the main reasons why Black Farmers and Agriculturalists Association is saying it is declining the farmer bridge assistance funds. Even though it typically backs efforts to assist farmers, the group's president called the program racist, saying that persistent discrimination and unequal treatment of African American farmers made participation unacceptable. So with a long eye on history, they're saying that this is not going to be a program worth participating in, and is more of the more information comes out about it. The aid plan includes one-time payments to farmers, with much of the funding directed through the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said the initiative is intended to help growers of major row crops and specialty commodities weather these economic pressures that they're finding themselves in right now. And the Black farmers would not, the Agriculture Association would not remain indifferent to what it sees as persistent inequality in federal farm assistance. This decision follows criticism from some Black farming leaders that the new aid package does not sufficiently reach African American producers, partly because many Black farmers have faced challenges accessing programs requiring enrollment or acreage reporting with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the Trump administration's officials have defended the program as necessary short-term relief for U.S. agriculture. So I think it's this firm eye, this long eye on history and how Black farmers have been discriminated against in the past or in their ongoing day-to-day business, that this new assistance that is being offered comes with as many in their inability to compete against these what I guess these legacy farmers of white farmers, these big box, these large agriculture, these agribusinesses who would probably get in line before these Black farmers to take most of that $12 billion. We're going to dig deeper into that over the coming weeks as we talk more about this program to help farmers and how Black farmers will. We're going to be watching closely how Black farmers will fare in all of this. But this is a report that is circulated. Mayor Muriel Bowser's response to the federal government's presence in the city, on top of these issues around farming. We also know that there's some troops in D.C. right now that is really weakening the local leadership there, and which may make them feel make it necessary for them to go and abide by whatever unfair rules that this administration is pushing in order to get that $12 billion. We're going to watch closely, listen closely to what a lot of Black farmers, what these Black farmers are saying, and how they're going to fare in the marketplace going forward in the presence of what we're seeing is their inability to really compete right now in this global economy and in the economy that is being promulgated with these tariffs. So we're going to see if inequality is still, and how inequality is still manifesting itself. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. I don't want to take more time out from you to give us a call and to write us an email about these issues. So the number to call is 813-239-9663, or you can write me a DJ at WNF.org. This is Community Speaks, and there's a lot of issues on the table, including the issue of misappropriation of funds here in the state, especially the fight against the will of the people, to fight against amendments, these ballot initiatives that were attempted in this state and got majority vote, but under the rules, the 60% rule, you can't have what you want unless you get 60% buy-in. So we're seeing the outcome of that, but we're also seeing the beginnings of an investigation about how funds were misappropriated from the governor's office. To deal with that, there's more money apparently involved than originally thought, and so there's an investigation underway right now to find out how much actually was misappropriated, why, what ads were used, how many ads were used to fight against the ballot initiative on the part of the governor. 813-239-9663. So we were talking about how Florida leaders are responding to shootings, the mass shootings, and also how black farmers are rejecting the aid package, and thinking that there's going to be some racist overtones, given the fact that historically there's been discrimination. 813-239-9663. This is Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patro Mobili. And we're going to get back to the music next hour. We're going to get back to the music. It's the Music Monday with Blaney Whalen coming your way after a news update from The Scoop, which is locally produced news right here at WMNF. And we're spiraling towards the end of the year, just trying to get a handle on what we've seen happen through the course of this year, what we're going to see going forward. We're already seeing, as we get to the end of the year, a corruption scandal growing in Tallahassee. And here, there's a reaction to mass shootings here in Florida. And shooting wasn't here, but we've had our share, because this is becoming a uniquely American phenomenon of mass shootings. And we've had them here in Florida, and the response has been more guns, more open carry. I suppose the idea is that the more people see guns, the more gunmen see guns, the less they're likely to pop off. But that seems like counterintuitive, since their idea is to create carnage and maybe self-preservation to some extent until they shoot themselves before the police can shoot them. You can also, we're talking about a couple of those issues, the violence, the corruption, and the racism, anti-diversity racism, as black farmers are saying they're going to reject that money that is being offered to them, that tariff money, which is a shame in and of itself. And you know that if there had not been this use of tariffs, that there would not be this need, this breakdown economically that we've seen. And so now to offer $12 billion as a fix for something that you caused in the first place seems a total waste of time, and proof that you will go down in history as one of the worst presidents ever, because you didn't think none of these things through. One emailer has written, if you consider how many times this administration traveled to Israel with various people, including this governor and Rick Scott, this president made statements that this emailer said they first heard quite a while back, talking about making the area a booming tourist attraction. And we've all heard those statements. They've always thought there was an underlying reason for these visits. This president has always been attempting to, once again, build something to make money. And if it didn't go bankrupt first. So, yeah, I think that's one thing we could say about these guys. They are motivated by money. But even when it comes to gun violence, gun sales go up. So I guess if you are in the business of selling guns, you look forward to these mass shootings, because you know that people are going to flock to you to come and buy more guns. And as I said, that is the legislative response in Florida, is more guns. 813-239-9663. Let's go talk to my friend in Marquette, Michigan. Fred, thank you for calling.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've called before,
Yes.
but I get to listen to your show intermittently, not every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate what you have to say.
Thank you.
But I watched a really good episode of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I thought was very significant, poignant, speaks to this issue. But the Republican Party was running on the anti-immigrant and the dangerous immigrant criminals, and they said one is too many. One violent death, one assault is too many to have from these immigrants. And, a whole litany, including, I think, Rick Scott from Florida, if I'm correct, was in the video, and said, these violent criminals raping our children. There was a woman who was Lacey, I believe, was the name of the law, that came up after a young gal was raped and killed in a...
Yeah. Lake and Riley.
One was Riley, thank you. And one was too many. And then consequently compared it to the gun deaths that were happening from the mass shootings in our schools. And the response is, these Dems and these liberals want to control our guns again. And, that we would have our children, our kids, our society under this threat is, to me, unacceptable.
It's a contradiction.
Mm-hmm. And it's about money. It's about the NRA and lobbyists and the number of lobbyists that the NRA has in Washington. There's more lobbyists than there are congressmen.
And which is what they do after they serve their time in Congress. They become lobbyists, yeah?
Well, that's true, too. That's interesting. I've come from a gun-owning family. We all own weapons, have lifetime, and I'm not against that. What I'm against and I think is the unrestricted access to weapons and to the assault type. President Reagan and Bush had a restriction on AK-47s and AR-15s.
Right.
That ended in 2000, I believe.
Not sure, but the way even the Second Amendment is written insinuates restrictions, but it's as if they want to forget all that.
A well-regulated militia.
Right.
And that implies a regulation. And so I know, just anecdotally, I go out and, do some small game hunting with about 15 different guys. We tend to be about 50-50 Democrat versus Republican, but they generally all agreed anyone buying this type of weapon, an AR-15, needed to go through enhanced background checks, something similar to a concealed weapons permit, that not every person should have that weapon.
Well, what I don't understand is what here in Florida, they want to even lower the age, which doesn't seem to make sense.
I think Arizona is another one where you can get a weapon at 14.
Oh, my goodness. And not just for hunting. I'm pretty sure they put that in there. It's just for hunting, but that's not what they use it for.
Well, I'm sorry. We have more weapons than we have humans in this country, and there needs to be some control, even though I got a text yesterday from one of my family saying the reason Australia has this is they have gun control. That's the reason for that mass shooting. And I, sent him a response that, their last mass shooting was in 96, and they enacted gun control. New Zealand, I believe, was in 2002 or 22, thereabout. 2022, I think they had a mass shooting, and they enacted gun control. We have, I sent him, this is the list of our school shootings. That doesn't include grocery stores, churches, parking lots, nightclubs, all the other areas that have had mass shootings in our country. How many did you list earlier? Like a couple hundred and a couple thousand, 14,000 people have died?
Yeah, it's been up there.
It was overwhelming. But anyway, I found it interesting that the Republicans can say just one is too many for immigrants,
right?
But allow this level of carnage to continue and fail after things like Parkland, Uvalde, all these different incidents where the
not to mention
turn their cheek.
Not to mention the contradictions of all of this, campaigning for law and order, but yet you let all of those January 6th insurrectionists out who were just as violent, and a lot of them have been rearrested for new violence.
The list of pardons by this president is just a who's who of criminals, felons, drug dealers,
corruption general,
predators. And did you hear about this movie on Netflix called Struck by Lightning, by the way?
No.
It goes back to Nick Offerman plays it, and he plays Chester Arfield, the vice president. When Garfield was shot, he was shot by a businessman. Cronyism was the thing back then. They didn't have civil service.
Right.
And one of the businessmen came and shot Garfield because he felt jilted. He didn't get the job he wanted.
That's right. You're right. It was during the spoils system, which really promoted getting paid off.
The VP, Chester Arthur, stepped up and actually took over and created, was the beginning of this what do you call it? The government jobs and civil service. And it's a really well thought of program on Netflix called Struck by Lightning, and it's about that story. You know, some of my friends were talking about Ken Burns and his recent documentary on the revolution. If you haven't seen it, it's incredible. But this program by Nick Offerman, Struck by Lightning, and goes back to what we had with the spoils system. Of course, Trump just gave his policy for security and went back to the Monroe Doctrine,
right?
Which takes us back to 1820s,
right? Which is, you know, I guess that's the time they wanted to go back to make it all great again. But we've seen that history play out.
Well, I think you said, did you say he's like the 47th president in popularity at this point?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from all of these polls that have been taken by experts. They say they're all similarly the same, but he's coming out last place.
Well, I know how I feel. I'm just sick because I think I kind of go along the line of being a humanist, and I've actually went back to the Bible, because if you're going to be a Christian and support this, you can't if you don't feed the sick or help the sick,
right.
And feed the poor and welcome the immigrant. The words of Jesus,
right.
Matthew.
No.
You want to read it? You know, if you really want to go to that and fight, do the Bible bash, then see what Jesus said. And this is so far from anything that would fit as a Christian belief system, as I was raised anyway. So,
yeah,
well, thank you for listening to me. I will blather on otherwise.
Well, thank you, calling. Thank you for calling, Fred. You can talk to me anytime. And from Michigan.
Thank you, Patro. Thank you for your show, and you're a voice of reason in the middle of chaos, confusion, and just
thank you.
Sometimes just crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep the good fight. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for calling, Fred. And that's my time. We're gonna get on out, make room, get some news update from the scoop, and then we're gonna get back to the music with Blaine Whalens. It's the Music Monday, but thank you for joining me here on Community Speaks. This is always a great hour, and my name is Patro Mobili, and of course I'll see you on Sunday and again on Monday. As we spiral towards the end of the year, let's take note. Let's take real note of where we've been and where we're going. This has been Community Speaks here on WMNF Tampa.
That informs, information that empowers. WMNF Tampa, where music, news, and culture collide.
Different on purpose. You're tuned to Mission Driven, listener supported. WMNF Tampa.